Ave cohort and welcome. We are here for another fine week of Pilum Teaches DCS. We're going to be focusing again on the F-4E Phantom 2. And we got a few things on the agenda here for today. First things first, as usual, we have our typical disclaimers of this being an official Pantheon training type instruction video. And we're going to be focusing today on an early warning radar strike. Mostly what we're going to be looking at is trying to execute a good pop-up attack. We're going to be making use of DT and probably direct modes for weapons delivery. We are carrying a strike and we're going to try and use it. But we'll see how that one works out, as that does have a historically low batting average for hitting the target. We're going to be dragging up some bombs along for the ride, and this is pretty typical. And we do have a Maverick on board to give us a little bit of extra standoff as well. So it should be an interesting time. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and get into the game. And we will do our walk around for the aircraft. All right, so here we go. We've got our F4. And we are, of course, carrying fuel on the center line, because we're going to be doing a lot of a little bit of longer range and some low altitude type stuff. On our special rails, we're carrying a Maverick B on the right wing and a Shrike tuned for an SA-8 type seeker head on the left. It does have a white phosphorus charge, so as long as it gets close, it should be able to provide us with a marker. We're carrying a standard defensive armament of 4 AIM-9L Sidewinder missiles and 4 AIM-7M Sparrows. And on our outer pylons, we are carrying 12, 6 on each side, Mark 82 slicks. Prefer using the slicks for this kind of work. It's really kind of a patient preference, as it were. Where if you're going in and using high drag bombs, you can absolutely do that too and get very, very good results. But I do like the option of having a little bit more standoff, and even though you can disable the deployable fins on the high drag bombs to treat them similarly to Mark 82s, I do like the pure ballistic nature that the slicks have. With that, the jets align, so let's go ahead and get on into it. And we'll unpause and start on our way. Actually, before we unpause, we're going to take a look at our target area ahead of time. Our mission today here in Germany is to cross the border into East Germany, south of Grossweiss, and attack this installation here, which we note has an early warning radar and is guarded by some SAMs. Our primary mission target is going to be the early warning radar, but of course we will need to deal with whatever threats are here that will allow us to attack that site more safely. Now, there are other bases that are nearby, like Zerbst and Dessau, which may send up fighters as we start attacking this place and dealing some damage to it. Especially if they go off the grid, they may send some reprisal fighters up after us, which could pose our own problems while we are in the zone and fighting. So, we're going to need to be a little careful about that. Broadly speaking, the plan that I've got is we're going to take off. We'll go to a mid-altitude level just to conserve a little bit of gas. Drop down low as we get towards these hills and can visually identify our target area in the middle of this forest near this town. There are a few things that I like to prepare in advance, and one of them is our WRCS page for for Jester. So we're going to take a look here, and if you could see in the top left-hand corner, which I will put on a separate screen here in a minute. Top left-hand corner, we have a set of map coordinates, and it has an altitude associated with it of 895 feet. We can left click here to get our waypoint information. It will display that information as well in meters and feet for you. Unpause here for a minute and pull up our bombing table. WRCS AGM 45. I'm going to throw in our target altitude here. I'm just going to round it up and call it 900 feet.
You got it, boss.
And grab our helmet and close the canopy.
Roger.
It automatically uses dark mode when it is nighttime outside or pre-dawn.
And we are good to go, sir. Bring it back in one piece. It is connected.
Yeah, no pressure, crew chief. And the reason why we're telling Jester all that information there is so that he can properly set up our computer to tell the Shrike
We got this.
at about what altitude we expect the ground. That should help our accuracy a little bit with that weapon. That said, it is a Shrike. It has a notoriously poor hit rate in real life, and DCS models that rather well.
Hey, we planning to hit the deck on this flight? Alrighty. Roger.
Some of the other things that I like to do in advance is dial in my quantity selector and my ripple distance. Now I have those on rotators that I can access on my throttle quadrant, and if you've got the room on something like an X56 or similar, I would recommend very highly that you do the same for all 4 of these wheels if you can. Those commands can be found under the Axis commands, specifically under the SimPit commands to bind those to Axis. Let's do a quick simulated stop out here. We can come up here and pull the pins out of the jet. And it's at this particular moment that I'd like to throw a big shout out to Reflected and the Red Flag 82-1 campaign. I've been having a lot of fun with that one, been very educational for flying the F-4. And given the Cold War leanings that a lot of folks have got going right now, especially us, as I've built a mission set for 1982, it really does kind of feel like it is, you know, the first 10 missions that people want to try and give you for something in real life over the Nevada desert. And then come here to do it for reals. Well, you know, with a giant asterisk on the end of that one. Very good, very immersive campaign. And of course, the usual things that I want to point out is that the knee boards in the F4 have really just been great all around. I'll probably come back to that and remember where my brain went while I was in the middle of talking, but you know. All right. Flaps and slats coming out. Let's go ahead and get to work.
Engine's good. Airspeed's coming alive. $80 knots. 100 knots. And nails, 10 o'clock. I'm showing nails 10 o'clock.
A little bit of stutter as we take off from Hanover today.
Black stuff. Gear up.
Adjust some brightness settings here on our Pipper. But Ihorn absolutely has the right of it there. It's especially on a jet where you don't have, you know, a bunch of HOTAS options that you can do long presses and short presses and some combination in between to change your various attack modes. It is very nice to have those at your fingertips to be able to make those adjustments. All right, I'm going to do a quick pause here, and we're going to talk about some of our other prep that we've done prior to taking off. Right now we have the radar up, guns in low rate. I tend to keep my gun in low rate unless I'm actually getting into an air-to-air fight. We've also come over and we've adjusted our aural tone volume all the way up so that we'll be able to use that either for sidewinders or for strikes. I have adjusted some of my countermeasure settings. Fuel tank is on, of course, and pumping gas. Boost pumps are working, everything's looking good for hydro. I've also preemptively set the reticle depression to 45 mils, and that is for our Mavericks. When I say Mavericks, like I've got more than one, our Maverick. And that is going to help align this Pipper with where we need to actually be pointed. Now we do need to remember that it does need to be elevated ever so slightly as we come in to try and use the Shrike. But we're mostly going to be using our 80 eyeball and the needles for the flight director when we're doing that. We've also turned on the continuous wave radar mode for the Sparrows, and they have aligned and are ready to operate, which is why they say that they are good to go with lit up lights. We do need to blank out our master caution. Our TACAN is on, RFF is on. All very important things. We do have our lights on, which we're going to turn off here in just a second. And I'm also going to change my RWR mode from open to priority, as we do have a large number of radar emitters out here. Which can be problematic in its own way. As we recall, we've got our Shrike out here on our left wing. We'll try and use that one first. And set our fusing for nose and tail. Throw that direct and ARM. Master arm on. Alright, all of our lights are out. We are fenced in and ready to rock and roll, and we got 11,000 pounds of gas plus 8 in the tank. Select air to ground mode for our Pipper here.
We've got nails 9 o'clock and nails 9 o'clock.
Now we do have a short journey ahead of us as we fly, about 30 miles or so. Unarm the gun just in case. And something you can pay attention to on your own as well is this central display for the radar. Understandably, there's a lot of false echoes and things like that that are coming back. And those tend to be any of the little lights that you can see there that don't maintain exactly the same position between each sweep. Ones that do tend to be other aircraft. Adjust the trim a little more. We can verify that the arm light is on for our Shrike. We'll leave the flight director off for a moment while we're closing distance so I can get accurate ranging information to our waypoint. You can see we're about 28 miles out. If I do turn that director on, it still gives us the range information for the most part, but I have seen where that number will change as you get closer to a radar emitter. A little bit of cloud cover today, but shouldn't be too awful there for us.
I'm showing nails 10 o'clock and nails 10 o'clock.
We have some nails out there to our left. Doesn't look like they're particularly advanced fighters. That particular symbol on the RWR page represents a variety of different aircraft, but knowing the enemy that are up right now, it's either a MiG-19 or a MiG-21. The knee boards for the F-4 are very well put together and contain a large amount of information, and in some cases absolutely essential for certain actions and activities, like sitting in the back seat and adjusting the range gate, or the speed gate rather, for closure or, you know, nose tail chase, all of that. The parameters for that can be found on an e-board page. How to align the jet, what to look for, e-board page.
SA2.
Oh, picking up an SA2. And there's our 8. Now we're about 14 miles out, so I'm going to go ahead and turn south a little bit. I'd like to be able to put eyes on the target area. Before we start beginning this shindig. I'm going to dive down just a little bit. And if we take a look at our map, kind of want to be in a position where I'm not staring at the sun while also trying to look for this target. We're going to push out a little ways to the south and then come back in south and north. Still getting the search pulses from that 8. Which is good.
Nails, 7 o'clock, and
We're going to pause here for another moment and talk about some of the things that I'm thinking about as we get in here to do this. Right now, we're still on the West German side of the border. We know that to be friendly territory. I am less concerned about flying low altitude while I'm over all of that. However, we are very close to the border for East Germany, so when we get down into the sticks, we're going to have some divided attention. And we're going to want to be looking around a little bit, trying to pay attention to what the AWACS is telling us as far as where jets are, as well as paying attention to our actual mission target, which should be north of us as we get ready to circle back around and come up through like this other H radar GDR4 station and these air bases. Now, I know for the purposes of our training that there's nothing there, but we're going to pretend like we don't know that, and then it could be a problem on our way in. We're going to want to be up just high enough that we can kind of see what's going on and identify our target area, and then we're going to get in down deep into the sticks and try and conduct our attack. Ideally, we should be able to get within about 5 or 6 miles, do a nice shallow pop-up, and throw that Shrike while the SA-8 is lighting us up with its radar, in the hopes that it will maintain that radar lock so that the Shrike will guide all the way to it. The other thing that we're keeping in mind, though, is that we do have a Maverick on board, and the biggest thing about Mavericks, especially in the F-4, especially when you compare it to more modern fighters, and this is something you have to absolutely keep in mind. The Maverick, as soon as you select away from it, will shut itself down. The next time you select that pylon to get ready to fight, it's going to be another 3 minutes of waiting for that thing to turn back on. So you have to figure out what weapon you're using on the way in, and if you're choosing to use a Maverick, you're really kind of committed to using that weapon. Otherwise, you're going to have to put up with a very long 3-minute wait while you wait for that weapon to come back online and be ready to rock and roll. Your bombs, your Shrikes, rockets, even things like the bullpup missile are all ready for immediate use as soon as you select the pylon and put it in the proper mode. Your Maverick and other TV-guided weapons like Walleye and GB-8 require a long spool-up time before they're ready to go. If that's what you're going to use and you're part of a multi-flight aircraft group, one of you can probably keep that going and be ready to fight with the Maverick, but the others are going to need to be doing things like watching for enemy aircraft, because you can't use the Maverick, or you can't use your air-to-air weapons while your Maverick is in an air-to-ground mode ready to work. The push buttons for your stick and everything else, instead of firing your air-to-air missiles, regardless of what you got selected, is going to go, yep, you want to turn on the Maverick TV camera, got it, we'll do that. And that's a lot less helpful for you. So we are carrying a Maverick on board, and that is mostly to give us a little bit of standoff after its warm-up time. So if we miss with the Shrike for whatever reason, and we can't follow up very quickly with a pair of bombs over the same target area, if we don't feel safe about that, we can extend, wait for the system to come back up, and then launch the Maverick from greater standoff to attack the target, which is also why I brought the B model Maverick, because that has a 4x zoom hard-coded into it that you can't change. So let's go ahead and get back to work here.
7 o'clock.
It's about 19 miles. Flight director's on, master arms on, everything's ready to go. We do have some hills. Very useful at. And the sun is low. So if we are going to try and attack this and avoid any IR missiles, we may want to break right further into East Germany after dropping weapons. To use the sun as the world's largest flare. I'm going to extend kind of out here to the east until the compass needle is pointing a little further north. Not a fan of these partial texture breaks that we're seeing, though, where all of a sudden a giant lake appears. I know that's some of DCS's new software rendering process that's trying to smooth some of these larger maps out, which is good changes, good progress. And I got some AAA lighting us up, but we do have protection from these hills relative to the missile site, and even relative to some of the other radar stations. I'm actually going to pause there for a minute while those textures fill in, because this is going to become a familiar sight for anybody flying on Cold War Germany. This is the border. That is the literal representation of the Iron Curtain as it relates to Germany. Know it, keep it in mind. Very strong visual reference, much like the trenches of World War I. All right, we are mostly north, or mostly south of our target, so we're going to go ahead and turn north and pop up a little bit. Okay, the 8 is locking us up. And we're going to go and pause here for a minute, and we're going to zoom in a bunch, because our target area, you can tell by these contour lines here, it's kind of on top of the hill with a little forest outlook. Let's see if I can catch it here in a second. Here we go. So what we're getting is the little chirps of the radar passing by us, and the Shrike is finding it in its seeker band. You gotta have the right seeker band and head attached. So every time it illuminates us very briefly, it will play that tone, and the tone pitch can tell you what kind of system is locking you up. And the crosshairs are going to indicate its position. Our goal is to line those up so that's a perfect cross, because we do need to be very close to our target. The Shrike has a very narrow 3-degree field of view when the weapon comes off the rail to even attempt to guide towards the target. So if we're not being illuminated by the radar in the proper way, and we're not pointed more or less directly at it, that's going to be an issue. Now, the pitch and volume, or rather just the volume, the pitch indicates what system it is. In this case, that chirp is an SA-8. Been illuminated up by those enough to figure that one through. But the volume of the tone will get louder and louder the more on center you are. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. So when it is as dead center as it can be, it will be screaming at you through the oral tone system. And because it's a Shrike, you're probably going to be well within the launch range of whatever system is trying to get you. It's just kind of par for the course with that weapon. The advantage of the system, you can employ it very quickly. Doesn't have a spool up time like the Maverick does. Disadvantages, if it's not lighting you up with the right track radar and the seeker head isn't for the right band, that weapon is useless off the rail. However, if you can get it close, and it does have the Willie Pete charge installed, which I would recommend you pretty much always do, it will give you a good smoke marker for about 60 seconds. to let you know where the target area is, where the missile hit. And if you happen to know that, yep, nope, that is exactly the hill that I want to be attacking, you now have a faster marker for a period of time to use as a reference point to go, okay, that smoke marker there, about 500 meters north, is the target you want to kill. All right, let's go ahead and attempt to engage the system. Now I know our system's range is very limited. And since we're feeling real fine, we're going to go ahead and get low. But yeah, that is why the Shrike spins in flight too, is it's trying to simulate, because it's, you know, basically a Sparrow with a modified seeker head. It's trying to simulate the nutating horn of a continuous wave radar pulse to help it guide. Seven miles. Six miles. Magnum. I'll go and pause there for a minute. And we're going to inspect our trauma. Shrike hit short. However, now I do have a Willie Pete marker near the actual site to use as a visual reference. I'm actually going to select bombs and DT mode, because we don't have a very long period of time for that smoke marker to actually do its thing. Welcome to the chat, and that's the point of today, so we're glad that that's working through. All right. See our smoke marker there off in the distance. I'm just going to pause again. And we know that our target area is just beyond that smoke as it hit a little short.
Heads up, Nails, 12 o'clock. And, oh, Nails, 12 o'clock.
Okay. Let's go ahead and pop on up. There's our site. We got tracers and everything coming up. Let's go and capture that target area.
Captured.
There's 4 bombs off. Dispensing some flares and chaff.
11 o'clock, SA8.
Man, it wasn't fast enough on that one.
We need to get out of here.
That said, though, I think we answered him. Yeah, he's badly damaged enough. He is not going to be shooting again. So the bomb pass was good, other than the fact that we were not quick enough to escape, not aggressive enough in that. But we have struck part of the target area there. Let's go ahead and that's single player, so we're going to have to reset it and do it again. That's okay, though. Do a quick startup on it. I can see kind of where you're going with that one. I kind of feel with the Phantom, it's in that in-between gap of we're still trying to figure out how exactly to make a lot of these things work, but we have figured out how some of these things work, and it's a very bastardized attempt at how to make the HOTAS do the thing. But there's still bombing tables and dive angles and speeds, and we figured out all the trigonometry and algebra and everything else to make this work for these specific dive angles, altitudes, and airspeeds. And as long as you fly in those parameters, you'll get close. But it is still very much a accuracy via quantity in terms of making that work. Not yet, but soon. DCS Sky Raider will have some fun with it, and that'll be fitting for the kind of environment that we're in. All right, let's go ahead and get started quicker, and then we will make another attack on that point because it'll have been reset too. Just waiting on the textures to load there, which will be just a moment.
Okay, what alignment?
We'll do stored heading this time. I did a full alignment to start the day.
Roger. Carts locked and loaded.
I wish they would fix the sporadic nature of those shotgun shells actually sounding like they fire. This feels like I only get like every other burst on those.
Let me know when you're done with the generators, brother.
All right, just going to align the jet. We're just going to go ahead and take care of setting things up. Turn out some of those lights.
Sure.
This time we'll lead off our attack with the Maverick. You can preemptively warm it up, so it's at least ready when you're on the ground. But it is a little bit of a long-term commitment. A little bit of time acceleration there.
You can go primary sync now. Alignment's done. We're ready to taxi.
Roger.
All right.
Yes, sir. Chalk's out. Okay, sir, you're all set. Have a safe flight. Flaps down. Disconnecting. Slats out.
Canopy down and locked. Lights out and stripes are aligned. Hey, we planning to hit the deck on this flight?
Think about that one, Jester. I want you to sit down and think about what you said. Alright, we're going to make our trip out that way again, and we'll use a Maverick this time to lead off the fight. Yeah, it tends to be a little bit right here at Hanover. Once we take off and get a little ways away from the base, it should be a little more back to normal.
80 knots. 100 knots. I'm showing nails 10 o'clock and nails 10 o'clock. Gears moving. Flaps up. Gear up.
All right.
Mud on our nose, 12 o'clock. AAA.
Ourselves set here. Just our brightness just a little bit there. Give it a little more gas and we'll climb a little more quickly.
Oh, mud, 10 o'clock. AAA.
Let's put on a little bit of an AP hold here at the moment. Proceed a little more direct this time, that we're not looking right at the sun. But some of the things that we're looking at here, we've got Maverick B up, and we can tell that it's a B because it has the 4 dots around the cross, which indicates its fixed zoom setting. Functionally, it works the same as any of the other Mavericks, but it does not have a variable zoom toggle. So if you are going to try and use one that's got less of a zoom with it, you'll need to actually make sure that you're using the A model Maverick instead. If you're cruising on a mission that is historically set for a slightly later time and you have Delta Mavericks available, those are infrared, and that does have a variable 1 and 4x zoom setting. Functionally, though, the Mavericks all work about the same.
We've got nails 9 o'clock and nails 9 o'clock.
$22 miles to go. And here we are about 20. I'm going to go ahead and roll over and dive down a little bit. We're going to get under the clouds.
Mud on our nose, 12 o'clock. SA2.
I'm going to say we're probably looking at like that area there. Adjusting the trim here a little bit. Have to adjust our brightness a little as well. Try and make those targets pop out a little better.
We got a stinger right on our nose. Missile, 11 o'clock. SA8.
Okay. Advantage we're going to have here for a brief period of time. Is that by virtue of having shot at us, it's giving us a place to look.
Mud, 8 o'clock. AAA.
And I think we're a little too low, so let's go ahead and press out again. I don't want to be inside of his reach. Gonna hightail it out to the west. We'll get a little bit of altitude and look back at him again. Inside of about 8 or 9 miles, so we're still very close. Low sun and haze have been fun. I think that's probably it there.
We got a stinger right on our nose. SA-8. Missile, 12 o'clock. Nails, 11 o'clock. And nails, 3 o'clock.
Okay. Do a quick little pause here and do a little look for hit assessment. I believe Mr. Shrike actually might have hit him. Maverick hit the building next to him. It wasn't quite where it needed to go. But since we have something on fire as a frame of reference, we'll exploit another weakness of the system. It's service ceiling. Set to 2 bombs. I mostly just want to deal with killing him first. Then we can pop up all nice and low. The rest of it. Our centerline tank is empty. Let's go ahead and get rid of that real quick. That's our area. It's going to run in on that northeast corner, or northwest corner rather, near the lake, which would be easier to see if the sun wasn't so low.
Captured.
Purple pair. Just landed short, but still effective for something. A little more altitude again. That's a lot better. All right, we're gonna roll in towards it. Get ourselves a better sight picture here. Single press on the Jester interact.
And captured.
We do have tracers coming up now. Try not to fly in a super straight line or at super straight altitudes.
Heads up, nails, 6 o'clock. And nails, 6 o'clock.
Let's go take a look at our friend here, the SA-8. Who's still active. We're kind of bombing all around him, but we haven't hit his position just yet. This cloud's not going to be a friend. Try and inch a little bit closer towards the site and hopefully not anger that SA-2 too much. We are a little high. Alright, see if we can't make this a little more precise. Oh, that glare is fun. That offset is better.
We've got nails 9 o'clock, and nails 9 o'clock.
And by better, I mean worse.
Unable.
Yeah, the radar is just lazily slewed out there to the right. See if we can't reset him a little bit. Nope, he's just hell-bent to be off to one side. Okay, that's a little better.
I'm captured.
Come on. Okay. Hopefully that got him.
Okay, nails 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
Make our escape here. And then we'll BDA it. I'm not seeing him light up the RWR anymore. It's possible he might be dead, but for the purposes of our learning environment. Go ahead and sneak a peek at him.
Oh, yep, that's mud. 3 o'clock. AAA.
Alright, he's now very dead. It took our bombs to do it, but the most threatening portion of that site is now destroyed. We'll go ahead and return to base here at Hanover. Grab ourselves some more kit. We'll make another pass on that one. I have to dead reckon that one a little bit. Unless our TACAM beacon is actually getting picked up today.
Mud, 2 o'clock. AAA.
Got more than enough fuel to get home. And I think we're just going to go ahead and put a waypoint marker down on the base.
You got it. Steering set for diversion.
Which should get us close with a little bit of drift. Flying for a little bit. Alright, so in our hypothetical world of attacking this one solo, we're going to have to come out and get more equipment to do it again. However, generally we would attack something like this with more than one aircraft. Things like that we'll be looking at in future training sessions, as I would like a little more time to set those kinds of things up before we get in there and do it. But we are going to make a second pass on it because we're not done yet. That radar site is not eliminated. Come down here and take a peek. And EWR has survived the firebombing of the F-8, or the SA-8 rather.
And nails. All right, those are some nails. 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
And there's still some defenders up in that area. So we're going to need to really be careful with it. Track IR got a little out of alignment. Fix that. Okay, it's going to start setting up for landing. Turn on some lights. Save for weapons. Raise our seat. We're close enough to pick up the TACAN now. Or rather, unobstructed enough to pick up the TACAN.
I've got nails 4 o'clock and nails 4 o'clock. How's our fuel state?
We're almost home, Jester, so we're fine. Granted, the large lake area we got going on, just need those textures to reload. That's a nice thing to see. I don't like that it's been doing that lately since the change in how they handle large textures. That said, that's home. And we'll set up for it. Hydros are looking good. Gears coming down, adjusting our trim up. Flaps coming down.
Alrighty, gear, flaps, pressure, warning lights, anti-skid.
There's a AOA indicator. Good shoot. Leave it over here for our shoot monkeys to deal with. There you are, my friends. Come get ready for our next sortie. We'll time accelerate a little bit for the refuel and the rearm. Once we get ourselves situated. Reset our trim. 3 down for takeoff. Reset our seat. Alright, jet stopped. Shouldn't need the strike anymore, so we're just going to carry more bombs. We'll do some high drags on our special weapon pylons.
Request refueling. Request rearming.
And here comes the speed. 7,000 pounds. And a half. Very diligently of filling that tank quicker. It's like watching a kettle of boiling water. Stare at the fuel indicator, it just won't refill. Now, while that's doing that, let's go ahead and go into the bombing table. And we're going to look at direct. Snake eyes. And we'll call our running speed about 500 knots true. With a release altitude. Site is 895 feet. It's planned for like 1,500. MSL. Target altitude is 900 feet. Dive angle is going to be as close to 0 as we can make it. Site depression is 240 mil dots. Lord. Are we even going to be able to see that? Sure won't. It's basically the moment it passes deep under the nose. For that altitude.
Refueling complete.
I'll do 1200. That's better.
You got it, boss.
So again, basically, just as it's getting ready to cruise under the HUD glass for that speed.
Rearming complete.
In indirect mode. Fun time. Alright, where are we armed? We are kind of ready to roll. Let's go ahead and take off and get back out there.
Roger that. Steering set for diversion.
Yes, again, we have high drag bombs on our inboard stations and low drags on our outers. A lot of gun platforms that are down there still. Probably an SA-9 in there somewhere. Hasn't shot at us yet, but we've been largely outside of his envelope. We'll go make this pass over him and the rest of the target area there until we can eliminate it.
Engine's good, airspeed off the peg. 80 knots. Airspeed's coming alive, 100 knots.
A little heavier than last time we went up.
I'm showing nails 10 o'clock.
Should have fine aligned just there while I was down there on the ground. Older Jets is definitely a constant trimming game as well.
Mud, 10 o'clock. AAA.
So if you don't have that bound somewhere or know where it's at, you need to find it. Some of the more modern fly-by-wire ones will correct a lot of their own problems, but older jets will do exactly what you tell them to, which is both good and bad for different reasons.
Oh, mud, 10 o'clock. AAA. We've got nails 9 o'clock and nails 9 o'clock.
You actually pull hard enough with the jet that the radar is just slightly aimed to the right now. Things to learn about. Of course, we might have been saved a little bit from getting shot by Mr. SA-9 just by virtue of the sun being present.
Nails 8 o'clock. And oh, nails 8 o'clock.
"20 miles to the target."
Damn, we've got mud, 11 o'clock. SA2.
13 miles. Alright, so again, while we're getting up in here, we have preemptively set ourselves to a 4-bomb release with about a 22.5 or so millisecond interval. It's generally what I use for most of my bombing with 2 to 4 bomb sticks. tends to get enough of a dispersion that it will overlap the area really nice, which is what we want. Again, you're not looking to do hyper precise with iron bombing in older aircraft. You're really kind of looking at dropping a nice ripple pattern over the top of the target area and really kind of hoping that one of the ripple pattern bombs will actually hit where you wanted it to go, and that the rest of them kind of do some collateral. We're set up for nose and tail fusing, which will be important, especially for our snake eyes that we've got on the inner pylons that we'll be using next. Master arm is on, pylons are selected, everything is good to go. We are approximately 12 miles from the target area itself. But again, we've got probably some drift to deal with there. And for some of our other challenges there, we can very clearly see that our radar is ever so slightly aimed off to the right, but it is following our true pipper position. So we're going to try and use that to really set up where it is we need to be looking. And with any luck at all, we should be able to get in and deal with our target and really finish it off. Try and get under the clouds here so we can see it. We know there's some gun platforms that are up there still. Job which would be made easier if I wasn't looking at an ocean from time to time. That I know is probably just a lot of RAM usage with what we're doing, but alright. We should be looking at our target area up here on the top of the hill. I think that's kind of it right there. Let's pop up and get to work. Going to reset my distance for a little longer. We're going to kind of focus on where those tracers are coming up from.
Captured.
Some hits kind of all along the area there. Still got some angry bees coming up after us though, so let's fly that a little more defensive. The trick with dealing with large caliber guns like KS-19s and S-60s, Sparkas, that kind of deal, is you really don't want to sit on a predictable flight path, airspeed, altitude, or anything along those lines for a very long period of time. That ripple pattern seemed to work out rather well. We're going to kind of come back for it and drop another pattern along the different parts of the base there. Some of those tracers were coming up from the forest. Kind of out here by these little like golf course type places. Yep, there we go.
Captured.
A little more gas there. We saw some that were on that other end, opposite of the forest that I bombed the area for. We'll extend a little bit, and we'll drop another low drag stick that way. And then we'll prepare to attack the radar installation itself with our high drag bombs. Yep, tracers are coming up.
I'm captured. All right, those are some nails. 2 o'clock. And nails, 2 o'clock.
I think we might have actually hit that. With that pass of bombs. We're going to be a little quicker about this. See if we can't take out more of those S-60 guns once our mission target is done. But we're going to need to hurry before those floggers come up and try paying attention to us. All right, here we go. That's a shock up. All right. Some good passes there. And while we are climbing up and away from all of that nonsense, we'll come take a look and see how we did. They're still shooting at me. All right, let's go ahead and pause here. And we'll come on down. So we nuked this SA-8. That was good. Probably load the rest of the trees here, but we took out some S-60 guns here in the forest. Eliminated a couple of them, but not all of them over here. SA-9 is still there. The Shokas are still very present. Took out some other gun platforms, some more Shokas. We've largely dealt with a lot of it. And due to the textures being a little more distant and unloading at that point, that's a RAM issue to fix, I think, is what that's going to end up being, at least until they smooth some of the other stuff out. But this site is largely done. There are some defenders that are there. There is a KS-19 fire can radar battery combination that's present. But our main mission target, there's the trees. Yeah, so you can kind of see just how hard it is to spot some of these things in there till it's almost too late. Which is good for the Shokas. They do have some sectors of fire cruising in over the top of them or in a shallow angle from a more open side. I know the S-60s were doing a lot of work because we could see the tracers emerging from the trees to come out and kill us. Sadly, there's no destroyed damage model for the early warning radar, so it's just gone. But it was sitting kind of right about here where these bomb craters were. We looked at it earlier, so it's definitely was still there somewhere. Yeah, the early warning portion of this site is very dead. And with that, we can fly home.
Nails, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and nails, 3 o'clock.
And we're going to, because our mission is complete. Had we nicked that radar earlier on one of the earlier passes there with it, we would have probably had to deal a little more directly with those fighters, as they might still be in the process of taxiing. Over from Zerbst. So what we'll do is we'll go and we'll return to base, and then we will review the TAC view and see how we did. Because I'm kind of curious to see how that Shrike did on its way in for the first missile that we fired. And we'll talk about some of the limitations of the equipment that we were using. Some of the ways we were trying to best deal with that. Flying the jet.
Roger. Steering set in TGT-1. Mud, 3 o'clock. AAA.
Okay, got a little bit of whipple, and it looks like we have very low pressure
Heads up, nails 5
at our
o'clock.
utility hydro.
I've got nails 4 o'clock and nails 4 o'clock.
That looks an awful lot like home.
Mud 3 o'clock. AAA. Alrighty, gear, flaps, pressure, warning lights, anti-skid. Gee, man, I always wanted to be a few inches shorter.
Rough there, not having the utility hydro available for the brakes as much as I would like. Thankfully, the drogue chute saved us. All right, let's go ahead and close this out and switch over to TAC view so we can see our flight. And we'll talk a little bit about all of that and close things out for today. I have to work on just building some specific lesson modules rather than making modifications to the larger missions. I feel like that would help a little more. Give us a little more focused on what we're doing. All right. TAC view's opening up. DCS down, and then we'll pull up the file from the mission. All right, so while this is loading up there for us, TACView is a free program that takes a lot of telemetry data that is given to us by the game, and it will do this for a few games that it's integrated with: Falcon BMS, DCS, I believe Battle of Stalingrad for IL-2 will do that as well. And as long as the server is allowing you to export that data, it will put it up here for you to see, and in a way that you can kind of manipulate and look at in a 3D space and really kind of see what was going on where. And you can kind of advance things around. You can see all these different threats that are available and really kind of use it to help assess your own performance within the scope of whatever's going on. You can pay a little bit of money for it to unlock a couple of additional features and everything, and I think that's kind of worth it as a one-time cost. Really helps the developer keep this going and making it really work well with everything that's going on. All right, so we have our lethal range here for our site. Going to be the SA-8 that it's kind of looking at. It's still kind of fresh. They haven't had time to update this to include all the runways and better textures and everything else for this part of Germany, but it's still close enough for what we're doing. So we get in there, he shoots the first pair of SA-8 missiles at us, which we immediately roll down and point nose down. One of the reasons why we're doing that as an evasive technique here at this mid-altitude is missiles, in general, have to intercept the target. They have to be able to fly where you're going to be, and if we can make that missile fly further, it will bleed off more of its energy. Now, we are well within this guy's lethal range, so unless we do something a little more drastic, we're going to have other problems. So what we're doing is we're basically pointing down at the ground going, in order to intercept me, you need to try and aim your missiles into the dirt somewhere in front of my aircraft. And as he loses his ability to see us through our descent and the missile's inability to intercept, those missiles will self-destruct. We came back around. I was trying to find him quickly with the Maverick because he did just shoot at us, so there was a nice smoke trail there, but that dissipated, and rather than risk it, I opted to leave a little bit and come back from higher altitude. Now this time, he shoots at us, and at the same time he's shooting at us, I verified the target because I could see the smoke plume coming up. And it's not quite on the target where it needs to be, but it is semi-close, so I fire the Maverick. Immediately swap the weapon dial over and fire the Shrike. He is tracking me with this missile. And again, we immediately seek to defend, pump out a bunch of countermeasures. And the Shrike actually fell very short. Shrike did not hit him. Maverick got close enough to be able to damage him, though. So kind of sad. But the Shrike more or less lost its guidance when the track radar was no longer in the same cone. All right, so they're shooting tracers back up at me. A lot of guns. And we took out some KS-19s on the first pass. And what I'm doing here now is actively hunting that SA-8. Trying to drop things near him, and it looks like I've damaged him. Come back to this pass. There it is. So we damaged him with that. We zoom in a little bit. we're bracketing him pretty well. And at this point, he's probably damaged enough that he's not really tracking. At least that's my presumption, because he's not shot at me. We might have dinged his search radar or some other system on it that it's just not having a good time with that anymore, because we're definitely in his window. He's got open skies over his head. We damaged the SA-9. Okay, that might have been why the 9 wasn't shooting at us. We damaged him too. At this point, I kick off the bombs and notice we're starting to get a little lower on fuel. But at that point, we destroyed the SA-8, so he's done. Come back, we land, we take off, return. You can really get a feel, though, for how the enemy is employing its gun batteries at me. And you can see a lot of these got really close because I flew straight line trying to acquire my target. I don't have a lot of seconds before they're going to start flooding the sky with more shells. And with that one, we killed a couple of S-60 batteries, but we damaged a whole lot of other vehicles, including one of the Shilkas. We're still very much within this thing. It's kind of a knife fight in a phone booth, which is a lot of how you're going to end up taking care of a site like this one. You could get more standoff and use some long-range precision type weapons like Walleye and GB-8. Put a giant asterisk on the end of long range on that one. Weapons that you can drop from way outside the envelope for most of these gun systems. But coming in with the slicks that we're using and trying to provide a little bit of more rapid fire rather than taking several minutes to drop a bomb, go out, set up, wait the 30-40 seconds for it to fall. We are inside the phone booth and prosecuting this target. If I had another ship with us, they could be orbiting, sourcing out these tracers, watching for missile trails, and we could alternate back and forth between which one of us is coming in to make the attack. Or, even if we didn't have any bombs on board, intentionally draw the tracers up to allow for somebody else. That was a good pass. That's the one that took out the actual network and disabled some of the S-60 guns that were on top of it. But yeah, if we had more than one aircraft attack in this one, we could use a little bit of bait and switch, which is always useful, especially not just in more modern tactics too, because if I was doing this as a pair of F-16s or an F-16 and a Strike Eagle trying to come in and attack this kind of a point, you could do it very similarly, where somebody goes in and they, piss the sight off a little bit, get them shooting, get them betraying their positions, while the other person sights in with their own equipment and gets weapons on target. If you have an advanced missile system, especially like some of the ones that are coming to play in DCS future, because they're under development as of the last announcement, things like the Panzer Spagum and other fun toys, baiting those things out and getting them to shoot while somebody else engages is really, really some of the ways to get this done. And those are tactics that we started employing against even like an SA-2 type system, or a little site like this. It's got a bunch of gun platforms and an SA-8 and a 9, where you try and get the site to engage one of you. That person can focus on being defensive without having to worry about getting weapons on target quite as much. And then the other person can come in and make the strike. You got to be quick. You got to be well coordinated. You got to be communicating with one another. And that's really the way of getting that one done with more than one aircraft. Flying this one single like we have, we're really kind of doing the best that we can, but we are limited by the number of bombs that we can bring up. So we really have to focus on what are the most offensive systems down there and what is my actual goal. And at this point in the flight is when I said that our goal was met. We had destroyed the site that was down there. That site was dead. You know, it's no longer providing electronic warfare services or early warning services to anybody in the area. And these guys were taxiing at their base to come up and investigate. And by the time they got into the zone, we were home. If you're flying on other Cold War type servers and things like that, you may have more responders or cap aircraft over the top of the site itself, which could really kind of throw things into a loop. So you're going to have to kind of peel the onion back on that and work with your teammates to deal with all of the threats while people get in and do what they need to do. But the goal is acquire your target, engage it quickly, and try and minimize your losses and threats to yourself. We were able to get in fairly close to this site and stay fairly close to this site once we eliminated the one long-range threat that was kind of holding us back, which was that SA-8 system. Some people are kind of in the mindset of, you know, golly gee, I've got to use a harm to go kill all those things. But one, at least on the mission that we were flying here, harm is not available to any of the aircraft. The best ARM that you got is a Shrike, since it is geared towards 1982. And the Shrike in actual usage only put up about a 25% hit rate. It was really kind of weak in that regard, as you have to be able to more or less see what it is you're shooting at and be well within its ability to shoot you. For that system to work, it's better than a sharp stick in the eye, but it is not much better than, there it is, let me go drop a bomb on it. Because broadly speaking, if you're in a point where you can hit that with a Shrike, or at least get a Shrike into the area so that people can look in that spot and conduct their own iron bombs attack, which was kind of the point of the Iron Hand mission of identifying where a site is, which is why, you know, our standard ARMs and Shrikes of the Vietnam era were often equipped with marker flares and, you know, smoke markers and things of that sort, so that they could get close enough to the site, possibly damage portions of the site, or at least get people to second guess what they're doing for a minute, and then allow for immediate follow-up with, you know, CBU, iron bombs, rockets, gun strafes, you know, whatever it is it's going to take to knock that site out of commission. It's an interesting set of work to be able to get in and get that gun, or get that done rather, without advanced systems like harm, where, you know, we really could have probably shot that system with a harm from about here, if not further. Yep, definitely something down there. It's emitting and everything else. We're just going to go ahead and pitch the 88s at it and call that an afternoon. You know, instead, we're having to try and get in here, and there's patrolling aircraft. There's all kinds of problem children that are up there causing hell for us. But that's the game. With that, we're going to go ahead and put a pin in the teaching lesson here for today. I hope that was enjoyable for folks. Just going to roll through our usual in-credit type stuff. Today was Saturday, so we had Pilum Teaches DCS. Next week, I'm going to be working with iHort, and we're going to be doing some front and back seat things with the F-4. We might even get around to doing some like paired aircraft tactics with it too, which should be fun. I'm going to build something a little more purpose-built for that, so it's hopefully a little lighter on the whole RAM end of the equation, which should make it easier for stream. Because while we had some of those issues here tonight, I can promise you I don't get that experience when I'm playing single player and not streaming. So clearly there's a little bit of overhead that we got to deal with there, and this mission is very busy. So that's what led to some of our minor tears and issues in there, and a little bit of stutter. As far as our other upcoming events, Monday we'll be doing some DCS and just doing some general flying around with most of the boys and having a good time there, which should be a lot of fun. I'm going to follow that up with classic games. We're going to be playing the Oblivion Remaster, mostly because, one, it really qualifies as a classic game since it's Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, and two, and just as important there on all of that, is, you know, It looks fantastic. It looks amazing, and in many ways it feels a lot like a new game, which is always a good touch. That's going to be our classic games time there on Monday as we carry on the adventures of Vilnith and Drani, but younger, 200 years younger. Should be a good time. Friday we have Arma 3. We're playing Antistasi. That starts at 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And then Saturday we're back to Pylum Teaches DCS. With that, appreciate all the likes, the follows, the subscribes. They really do keep the channel moving and flowing. I am going to use that money for things like coffee and RAM upgrades and everything else to make things that much better for folks here. Subscribers do have the added benefit of being able to pull me aside and arrange for some one-on-one time, either in DCS or some other thing that we play, and do a little bit of teaching and stuff there for it. So while it's not a requirement for folks to subscribe, I do appreciate it, and there is a benefit to doing so, aside from getting rid of ads. If you would prefer and you don't have a Amazon Prime account that you wish to provide a free Twitch subscription with, because I will very happily take all the Bezos dollars ever, you can choose to donate directly and tip directly at coffee.com/PylumJeremiah. I will use that money for coffee, as we've had a couple cups here this morning. Catch this and other VODs on the YouTube channel there at PylumRomar. With that, folks, always ask for consent. Try to communicate as best you can with your partners. Try to be genuinely decent human beings. And I will catch up with you next time. Thanks for watching, folks. Pylum out.